All right, we're counting down. Red light is on.
I guess I should say welcome to another segment of Riding Shotgun. Today we're in the car with Kevin Tetz.
And my 10-pound right foot.
And we're having a little trouble with the brakes in this Mustang. Nonetheless, we're having a good time in it. And Kevin, welcome to the car.
Thanks for letting me drive. This is so cool. This is the holy grail, almost. It's not a Shelby. 428 Q code. It's got air conditioning. Doesn't work, but you know, that's okay because it's 90 degrees out in Tennessee, but regardless, right. This is a cool car. Power steering, this was it, man, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have a real affinity for these 1970 Mustangs. My father, well, when I was in college, I had a 1969 convertible. At that time, my father had a 70 Mach I, and it was black interior. Had the 351 Cleveland, so not the big engine, but it was just such a fun car. We get so many compliments, so many looks. He actually traded that car for a Shelby later, and but he loved that car, and it was a really well done car. He took second place at the Mustang Nationals with it back in the 90s. Yeah, so
wow,
it was a really well done car.
Well, I'm a Ford guy. Some of the first magazines I ever started writing for were Mustang Monthly and Modified Mustangs and Ford, and the editors on those books took me under their wing. They showed me how to shoot tech and taught me, kind of groomed me how to be an automotive journalist. So, you know, it kind of sticks with you, right?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that you were a journalist. You know, I think people mostly recognize you from television.
Yeah, and
so they don't realize that you wrote a lot for these magazines out there.
Well, you know, we had to write our own TV shows. With the DIY network, the first show that I was on, I had a producer that wrote the segments, but I guess you called it an associate producer. And the technical stuff, that's my background. I am a technician as far as the foundation of everything that I do. I'm an automotive repair technician. I'm a body shop guy. You know, I grew up around it. I'm neck deep in it. So that provided me, the fact that I can speak a full sentence and understand punctuation a little bit, that provided me enough information to, with the help of others, I guess, become a self-titled journalist, you know.
So what do you think of this particular Mustang?
This Mustang, I've got a good friend. Boy, the brakes are touchy. I want to bring this thing in and put a different vacuum booster on it or something. This Mustang 70 is kind of one of my favorite cars. A good friend of mine, Kelly Love, was a guitar player in one of the road bands that I played in. He found a Mustang that the date code was his son's birthday. So he felt it was predetermined to get the car. So I ended up painting the car for him. It's actually the subject of one of my instructional videos on how to do panel replacement. So kind of full circle stuff. So I love these cars. Aside from my personal connection, look at this thing. It's aircraft inspired. We got the double hump thing here. They borrowed so many cues of these cars off of the GT European road cars. And the styling is just fantastic. So I love them aesthetically, and I love them for a lot of different personal reasons. So I mean, it's a privilege to be able to drive this thing.
The 69 and 70 Mustangs were, just in my mind, an improvement to me because I tend to like the more muscle car era, you know, and the early Mustang was, I guess, what we would call the pony car.
Yeah.
I can sometimes never understand the difference between pony car and muscle car and those sort of things. The controversy of which is which. But I always loved it. It just felt more muscly to me, just about to look at it.
You know, different than a lot of late model cars. When you look over the hood, you can almost see the ground. Yeah. It slopes down. It's not a big giant box, and you can, despite the slats, you can see out of the back window. I've got pretty good visibility, so it feels small. It feels spry. Yeah. You stuff a 428 Cobra Jet under the hood. Yeah. Well, and then you give it way too much fuel. And it tends to stumble a little bit. No, but you give it enough of a drink and the right combination, this thing will take off like a rocket.
Yeah, they have a lot of torque. 440 pounds in this car, I think, from the factory.
Yeah, if the viewers are watching, you want to study the evolution of a really great engine. The FE engines started out as truck engines, and then they ended up in the police interceptors, then they ended up in the Mustangs, and they ended up in the Shelbys because Carroll Shelby decided that he wanted a better engine in the task of Ford people. So the heritage of this engine is pure hot rodding, you know, so it was really interesting, the evolution. It came from a truck engine that was, a very capable, torquey engine, but just needed to breathe a little bit better.
So what was your start in the automotive industry? Did you start out in repair?
Yeah, my start in the automotive industry is that I was so poor that I had to make my own car. I couldn't buy it. We grew up with nothing.
What was your first car?
My very first car. Now my first vehicle was a truck. It was a 49 GMC pickup, and it was a piece of crap. It sat in the driveway and held the gravel down. But my first car was a 1968 Fairlane.
Wow.
Yeah. So the beautiful Torino-esque styling, the 4 portholes on the dash, a little 302 that was so clapped out. But I loved that car because it was 16 years old, and that car to me was my legs towards freedom. You know, I grew up, my Uncle Herb had a salvage yard, and my cousins, Glenn, Wayne, and Alan, my brother Blaine, and I, we started playing. We learned how to ranch on all those old cars in Uncle Herb's yard. So that got me started, and my love of cars. My dad's a paint and body guy. He's still a paint and body guy. So I kind of grew up watching him work, and you know, those family connections were made through cars. So it's not like I decided to have a career in automotive. It was just ingrained in me, you know?
How did you make the jump from that into writing and television?
You know, it's so interesting. I get to speak every once in a while at commencement ceremonies for trade schools and things like that, and it's such a privilege to be able to do that. And people ask me that question all the time, because I'm a paint and body guy. I've painted thousands of cars in collision repair shops and restoration shops and stuff like that. So how did I get involved in TV? I spent way too many years trying to be a rock star, so that I didn't get the brass ring, but I gained a whole lot of other things from it. One of them is the ability to confront my fear of being in public. So nobody ever loses that.
Wow. I'm just going to say, if anyone's out there, do yourself a favor and go out and find yourself 1980s video of Nova Rex. Because you are not going to believe he just said that he has a problem being in front of people.
Okay, so the song you want to look for is Bring the House Down Tonight.
I can't get out of my head.
It was a live performance in Long Beach, and Dee Schneider called. He wants his jacket back. That's all I'm saying.
I can't believe it. It's unbelievable that you tell me that you have a problem in front of people, because that video is amazing.
You know, I was a very insecure, awkward little kid, and I found a way to express myself through first being in the high school theater club, and then I got involved in playing in rock bands when I was 13 to 14 years old, and it took me out of my shell.
I can tell you that my father and I spent years and years watching you on TV and teaching us how to do those things at home.
Oh, wow.
And so my father can paint a car like you wouldn't believe. People come to him and ask him all the time, hey, will you paint my car? Because of the beautiful work he does.
Right.
And most of that was learned by guys like you teaching them right there on TV how to do it.
Oh, well, that's so humbling. Thank you. Thank you.
There's a lot of tech involved in it, but there's also some art in it.
There's a bit of expression, there's some art, there's some muscle memory, but it's a technical skill. Anybody can learn it, and I've taught thousands of people, at least. Oh, rim blow steering wheel.
Rim blow steering wheel.
How to build their muscle memory and their skills up. But I have to give tribute to the producers on television. The question is, how do you tell a 100-hour story in a 30-minute show that's really only 22 minutes of content?
Right.
A little bit at a time.
So with this car, as you can see, we're driving around. It's noisy. It's rattles. It's 50 years old. It's cool as can be. Obviously, I love it, and I get used to driving around. But there's nothing better to me these days than taking one of these cars and just outfitting everything underneath, from drivetrain, suspension, and all that, with modern underpinnings.
Yeah.
And so I understand you've got something going on right now with your C10 truck. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got a C10 truck, and what you're talking about is this Restomod movement, taking the spirit of an old vehicle like this, where you really have a good road connection, but you put modern conveniences in it. More efficient engines, overdrive transmissions, efficient air conditioning, gauges like GPS connections, all these things that keep the spirit of the old car, but give it modern reliability. That's the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, just this car today, driving this car on the interstate, I'm at the RPMs are about pinned when I'm at 65 miles an hour.
For sure, because it's got low gears. It's a Cobra Jet.
Right,
You probably got, what, 430 gears or something in the back?
I think the top speed on this car was rated at 115 miles an hour.
Yeah, right.
And my wife's Buick Encore, will pass by that when you're not even thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, this is a stone time capsule, man. This thing is so cool to be in. This is the Mac Daddy. This is 1970, the heart of the muscle car era, so it's such a privilege and a thing to be sitting in this time capsule. That said, you and I are both sweating like pigs, and it's going to be nice to get in my late model G8 and be thrown out of there with ice cubes. So that's the goal with the Restomod thing, is to bring the modern conveniences in and not lose the spirit of the true performance car. So with my C10 truck, that's what we did. it's an interesting fruit salad of a bunch of different components. The only thing left from the original truck was a 71, and it's from the windshield pillars up. It's the cab and a bit of the floor. The rest of it came from sponsored parts. There's a Schwartz Performance chassis. It's a race car chassis. We've got a late model diesel engine set far enough back to qualify us for a mid-engine status. Vintage air, painless wiring, race pack Holley gauges, and it's a V8 turbo diesel with a snail about this big on it, so it's going to make 1,000 foot-pounds of torque.
That's amazing.
1,000.
Yeah.
1,000.
What do you do with that?
What,
Are you going to be able to hook up a truck with 1,000 pounds of torque?
No.
You're going to go through a lot of tires.
Well, we're going to be able to steer with the back end, losing traction, drifting, and all that stuff. But it just makes the vehicle fun. We've got really sticky BF Goodrich tires on it, and it's going to be very well balanced. Our weight distribution, you know, diesel engines are heavy. The engine and transmission combo in this truck is 1,370 pounds.
Wow.
That is way heavier than a big block cast iron Ford, like a 428 such as in this car. But we've got it set far back enough to where we've got 49-51 weight distribution, which is as good as a 911 Targa SC.
Yeah, that's impressive in a truck.
In a truck with a diesel engine. It's one thing, a typical truck, even with a small block in it, is nose heavy, right?
Right.
So one of the concerns right off the bat, because we knew we were going to do a diesel powered truck. So your question is, what do you do? An inline 6 Cummins, you do a Duramax 6.6 V8, and then this Titan engine came along. It's from a 2016 Nissan Titan XD truck, 2-wheel drive, so it's got a 2-wheel drive 6-speed automatic transmission, and it was like, hey, nobody has ever done this before.
No.
We found out why.
A lot of work?
A lot of work. A lot of work. You know, it's been almost a year a year and a half now. And some things set us back. Some logistics set us back, some connection stuff set us back. But for the most part, I've been working on this thing a year and a half, and it's now finally to the point to where we're going to do a debut at a cruise-in at a hot rod shop in a couple of weeks. And I'm so stoked. So the truck is ready. So I want to show it to you guys.
Yeah, well, we want to come take a look.
Okay.
All right.
I've got air conditioning in my shop.
Oh, I'm so ready. I'm sweating. I can't believe I'm sweating this much.
It's all right.
Well, let's grab Amanda and head to the shop.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks for letting me drive this thing, man.
Hey, my pleasure.